So, but it's good. We're good. I'm good.
That's good.
I feel like I should just set a cot up in his office, to be honest. Like just start paying rent so they can keep their office. I feel like I put all of his children through college. Okay, so here's your chart. And if you notice, and it's really funny the way they have this, so I'm actually going to change the house system, because what I'm using here is the Placidus house system, which is, this is the kind that if you look up your chart on the internet, this is the house system that they would use. And you have your rising, your first house and your seventh house are what we call inverted, because you have 3 different signs. In the Placidus system, it's different. So when the sign is at the rising, the horizon, that's where we get the ascendant, right? And every day it changes the amount of time that like a sign will be on the horizon for the ascendant. And so everybody's charts are different when it's in the Placidus. And so that's why you have 3 different signs, and you have 3 different signs also in your 7th house too. So we call it inverted because there's so much information, so much stuff that's going on there. But if I were to do like a whole sign system, which I personally like because it's much cleaner, because here you can see that now the signs, the houses are whole. You see that? Where it's not, and we don't have like that big old jumbled mess all here in the first house.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is you can read the energies, because you'll read the energies differently with the planets depending on which house system that you're going to be using, but you'll probably resonate whether I read the energies from this house system or I read the energies from the other one that we were just looking at. You would probably resonate with both of them. So, and it's so strange that they try to be so confusing about that, but there's a lot of different astrologers out there and that's why it is that way. So I personally like reading the charts like this, so that's the way that I'm going to do it. Because it's just a much cleaner experience for everybody involved. What's really interesting though is, hold on a second, I kind of want to see. Yeah, there's not even like the biggest change that happens is with this and your north node and south node. Okay. Yep. All right. So the whole sign system. So I'm going to start with your rising sign and we'll just move through the chart. We'll talk about that and then we'll look at your solar return too. Some of the things that I noticed right away with your rising sign, having Pluto sitting right here on your ascendant here in the first house, this makes you somebody, you really command a room. Like when you walk into, like your energy is very, very present everywhere you go. And you might actually be the kind of person that shrinks yourself away from doing all of that because you don't want to feel like you're in the way or you're a burden or anything like that, because your Chiron down here in the 4th house makes me feel like when you are in small confined spaces, you feel like you're taking up too much space. And so you kind of become a wallflower. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that's okay to do, but in order for you to be felt, you need to understand that you're not in the way anywhere you go. Like if you go to a party at somebody's house or something and everybody's congregated in the kitchen, like put yourself right in the middle of the conversation, because you have things that people probably, you know, could benefit from hearing come out of your mouth, because having that Pluto on the ascendant means that you just have this very powerful presence and people will listen to you when you talk. But for probably most of your life, you were cast out or shut down or told to like calm down, go over, you know, just go sit down and like be quiet a little bit, or you had this like meek little presence about yourself, and so nobody, like you never really felt like you could insert yourself in any kind of conversation. So I'm just like to kind of start this reading letting you know that the power that you exude from yourself is big, whether you try to shrink it or not. So don't use the extra energy to try to shrink it. Just be yourself. And if people can't handle you being yourself, then you weren't supposed to be around them anyways. And that's like the biggest thing. So also here, you're going through your second Saturn return now. Oh, this is the solar return. That's why it was like, why am I looking at this? Sorry. That's your chart. So that was your solar return that we were looking at. I was totally wrong. Today's been really weird. Let's start over again. I was wondering why that looked so weird to me. Anyways, okay. Different. Now this makes sense. You're a Cancer rising. Woo!
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because it was showing that you were a Capricorn rising, and I was like, that's not right. Why is this weird? Sorry about that. You're being all calm and quiet over there. Are you tired or something?
No, I'm just listening to you.
Listening. Okay. All right. So now that we have the correct, let me go back. So you're a Cancer rising. You do have Nessus sitting right on your ascendant, though, sitting very close to your ascendant. And this is another wounding of presence in the room. You do still, having a Cancer rising, that still is a very powerful presence to have. But again, Nessus is the place, and it's an asteroid. It's a Centaur asteroid. And I've even heard an astrologer say, this is where we are, like, this is where life rapes us, or like figuratively speaking, like it's, we're kind of taken advantage of in that way. So have you always felt like you were taken advantage of?
Yeah, not always, but yeah, somewhat.
Yeah. Oh, and this too. Oh, that makes sense now. Oh, okay. I get it. I'm like, it's like a story for me. I'm just like reading the story off the screen. Okay, so you're Cancer rising, and then in the 7th house you have Capricorn, which is funny because in your solar return it's flipped. So Capricorn is the top and Cancer is in the 7th house. But so what's interesting here for me, and I want to talk about the 7th house because I know that you were having relationship problems, and the 7th house really focuses on relationships. And what's great about having Mercury in the 7th house is that you can have conversations with people. Like you can easily talk to other people. You can get along with other people in ways like that. But I've always said having a Mars in the 7th house is somebody who bulldozes relationships. So, and you don't do it on purpose. You subconsciously do it. It's sort of just like a built-in mechanism for you. But it's like people with Mars in the 7th house feel like they can do all of it better than other people. So they just take care of like, it's almost like even as an adult, you're treating your partner as if they're the child. Like, I'll do your laundry, I'll do the dishes, I'll take care of this because you're not going to do it right anyways. So I'll take care of it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So and that's one of the things that, like, when we become really obsessed with partners and wanting to take care of them, that can make other people feel really boxed in. I have a friend that the girl that I lived in Maryland with for a while, she was married to this guy, and she would take care of everything for him. She would do everything around the house. And then she would bitch about how he would never do anything. And I'm like, I was sitting there and I was watching how all of this was going, and she has Mars in the 7th house. And that's why I'm telling you the story. But I was watching how all of this was playing out, and I'm like, Amanda, you do realize that you don't even give him a chance to like be an adult. Like, you take care of everything before he even gets the opportunity. And she's like, well, I just get it done a lot faster. And I'm like, well, then that's fine. You do it, but don't bitch at him for not doing it if you're doing it. And so there's that fine line between, you know, and it's fair to say that the reason why you want to do this is because you just want to take care of other people, especially since it's in Capricorn, but you almost see it as a business instead of a romance. And it's like, this is the way things have to go. And if this is not the way things are going to go, then I'm going to act all crazy, or I'm going to do this. It's like having expectations, like high expectations for people that they can't even meet, because you can't even meet those expectations. Like, if you have expectations of other people to be a certain way, and you're not even meeting those expectations for yourself, not for the other person, but meeting those expectations for yourself, then it's just not going to work, like, either way that you do that. So just remember that when you are in a relationship, if people, like, I don't know if if guys have ever said to you that they kind of feel trapped or they feel smothered by you.
I've heard them. They told me that they felt like I was treating them like a child, or like I was being like a mother to them or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why I want to bring that to your attention, because with enough awareness, you can see yourself doing it and like stop yourself in the process, and it doesn't become a cycle with that. But that's one of the lessons that you chose to learn in this lifetime, is to learn how to handle other situations with other people. Venus and the moon in the 9th house, and it's right next to Pholus. So Pholus is where we have like addictions and obsessions and stuff like that in life. But having the moon and Venus in the 9th house is really, really expansive energy. Do you feel like it's really hard for you to sit still?
Yeah.
Okay, this is like super big ADHD. Like this is like where that ADHD would be in your chart. And it's okay. But one of the things that I want to, because you're very mutable with having all this Pisces energy, you're extremely mutable. And so recognizing that when you are really, really antsy, like getting up and moving around, going for a walk, I even find that when I'm walking outside or I'm moving or I'm just moving around, I'm dancing around at my house or something like that, I'm like releasing extra energy because I'm really super mutable too. And when I get tense, when I get like anxiety and tension in my body, I know that it's just stored energy that I'm holding on to. And so I got to like move around and like get it going. But that's why we get antsy. Because we have all this stored energy, and especially fire signs. With fire signs, it's really, really bad. Like my partner's a Sagittarius, and man, he's like on the go from the moment he wakes up until he goes to bed. And I'm like, I don't know how you have all that energy. Like I'm jealous. But yeah, and the other thing is your values are extremely important to you, with Venus being conjunct your moon sign. And the way that your values are, like you have you have really good expensive tastes, and I can see that if you have those kind of tastes but you're not like the world doesn't allow you to have those kind of tastes, that you're going to have to be the one to be like, if this is what I want in life and this is the way I want my life to look, then I got to make changes to do it. And like the fact that you were studying before this, I'm not surprised. Are you like in college or something?
No, I'm trying to get my GED so I can go to medical school.
Oh, very cool. And I love that those aspirations, because to me, that would be something that you would do that is like of great value to you. And that's the 9th house is about higher education. The 9th house is about, creating like the experiences for yourself. And it's about spirituality and philosophy and long distance traveling. Like, I think that if you had the opportunity to be able to travel, of course, when all the restrictions are lifted, or if you even wanted to figure out through the restrictions to do it, but traveling would be a really good thing for you. I feel like your moon sign would be like, you would just feel the freedom. Do you love traveling?
Yeah. Yes, I've been traveling a lot since I've taken I'm on vacation for the next till the 28th. So I've been going all over to Washington and different beaches, different things. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. And definitely the ocean is a really big thing for you too, with that Pisces. But also, if you ever get the opportunity to travel abroad, that'll probably something that feeds your soul as well. Like, so if that is ever an opportunity for you. Okay, so now we're going to look at the North Node and Chiron here, because this is another really big important thing. So, I'm sorry, the South Node. I think I said the North Node. So this is where that purpose in our life comes from. And the biggest misconception about our purpose in life is a lot of people think that your purpose has to equal your career, or your career equals your purpose. And for some people it overlaps, and for some people it doesn't. the real meaning of life is self-actualization, self-realization, figuring out who you are and having that awareness and that like being extra consciously aware. That's the meaning of life. Loving yourself is the meaning of life. Everybody thinks that it has to be this really big, like dramatic. I mean, like Hollywood has made us believe so many ridiculous things. So I want to preempt that before we talk about the North Node and the South Node, because I'm not going to talk about it in a career kind of way or like this really big thing that you're supposed to do to change humanity. It's simply about what your soul wanted to accomplish on Earth in this lifetime. And your North Node being in the 4th house and your South Node being in the 10th house means that in this lifetime, you're supposed to allow other people to help you. You're supposed to allow other people to make you feel safe. And you've probably had a lot of pain and heartache when it came to, like in the past, like people have not made you feel safe. And there may have even been, did you have an abusive childhood? Or what some people would have called abusive?
I didn't have an abusive childhood. I had an abusive relationship as I got older.
Okay, so you had a good childhood. It was positive and it was.
Yeah, I didn't have no problems. I mean, my mom wasn't around me. I was raised by my father, but I didn't have an abusive childhood at all.
Okay. But there was abandonment from your mother.
Yeah, with my mom,
okay.
yeah.
So that's what I was getting at. So there was some kind of trauma that happened because that's abusive. When a parent abandons you, you're being abused, basically.
Okay, I was thinking a different way.
Yeah, and that's trauma. I mean, that's trauma, and that's something that we store in our body. Like my father left me when I was 8. And I had my mom and my stepdad, but they were very distant people. They were like stoned all the time. So like I basically had to raise myself mostly. I mean, I think that they tried sometimes, but some people wouldn't see that because they'd be like, oh, well, you had 2 parents. And I'm like, did I though? So, but some people don't see that, you know, it's a perspective thing. Like some people see abuse differently, but definitely abandonment is abuse to children. And I feel like that is a wound that you hold on to. In past lifetimes, having a South Node talks about the past lifetime and even our childhood. And in past lifetimes, you were really, really ultra independent. And being raised by your father and not really having a feminine figure that you can look up to, you were kind of in the role of being the feminine figure in the house, even though and I'm not talking like in a sexual way, I'm just talking about like in the nurturing kind of way, right? Like you probably learned how to cook early. You probably learned how to do laundry early. You probably learned how to like take care of the house earlier than most people would. And I'm not saying that your dad wasn't worthy or he wasn't like a good father. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there are certain aspects that men do and there are certain aspects that women do, or the feminine and the masculine. And sometimes it's just a natural progression for us to take on the feminine things when there's a feminine that's not around, when there's not a woman in the home. And I feel like because of that, you sort of in your childhood, you had to be a little bit more independent than most kids had to do.
800.
Chiron on your South Node. So any planets that are near your South Node, the South Node's going to act as a vortex and kind of like suck that planet's energy in. And Chiron is the wounded healer. And since the South Node represents our past and our past lives, and you have Chiron conjunct the South Node, the wounds that you have carried from past lives and from this lifetime, you store it in your body, because the 10th house is very much a physical kind of house, or like a body kind of house, because it's naturally ruled by Capricorn and Saturn. And so this is what you revert back to. So like when you have ego tantrums, when your ego is triggered, when somebody triggers you, that abandonment wound shows up very abruptly, like, how dare you? How dare you leave me? How dare you treat me this way? I can't believe you would be like that. Even if they didn't mean to trigger that abandonment issue, it's always sort of like looming over your head. It's always sort of like right there. And it may not even be the abandonment. It may be the, like, I'm just going to do this on my own. I don't feel like anybody, like the ultra independent trauma response that we have when we feel like we can't trust anybody, or we feel like we can't depend on anybody. We decide, and I'm saying we because I was the same person, sister, like I get it 100%. But when we feel like we can't trust or depend on other people, we automatically revert to that trauma response, like, fine, I don't need anybody. I'm just going to do this on my fucking own. And that's what you do. And so instead of getting that passive aggressive, especially having that Cancer rising, you can be a little bit more passive aggressive than most people. Again, I understand, I have Cancer placements too. But Cancer placements will get real angry and then shut down and like clam down and be super passive aggressive about it and not like discuss their feelings. And so for you, the biggest thing that you need to do every single time you have that ego trigger, you have that ego tantrum, or you feel that ultra independent response coming on, and it still happens to me, and I have to be super extra aware of it as well. So I'm not saying this to harp on you, but each time you do it, you have to take accountability of the things that you say. You have to take accountability of the way that you act, because I don't know about you, but I can act like a big old brat when I get into ultra independent mode. Like, fuck you all, I'll handle this. And I start stomping around and doing whatever I want to do and be like, screw it. And that's the opposite. That like pushes people away. That makes other people feel like they're less than, when in reality, what we're actually angry about is the fact that we have to be ultra independent because of our childhood and not with what's going on in the actual situation. The other thing is you're going to have to learn how to set boundaries with people. And when I say that, I mean setting boundaries by always being yourself, always speaking your truth, not bringing your vibration down to meet anybody else's vibration. You always keep your vibration up here and you make them meet you where you are. And recognizing those people that do trigger you and those people that do treat you bad, like stop bringing them into your life, because it's almost as if a cycle happens with certain people where you'll keep them around because it's familiar. And like maybe one time you guys had a really good experience and you sort of hold on to that and romanticize that. But when it comes down to it, it's a much worse relationship than you are letting yourself believe that it was. And you believe that you were the one that was at fault when in reality you probably weren't the one that was at fault. But that's the North Node in the 4th house. Is the more you focus on your path of creating a stable life for yourself, which is exactly what you're doing, by the way, the more you stay focused on that, and the less that you focus on what everybody else is doing, or the less that you focus on thinking that you need to constantly be in everybody else's business, the more you focus on your path, the easier it's going to be. And the more blessings and like doors of opportunity will open up. Like, get that GE done, and that door of opportunity is going to open up for you to go get your associate's degree, or, you know, getting into, I don't know if you're doing like nursing school or like what it is. Is it nursing school? Yeah. And I can absolutely see you doing that with Ceres here, down here in the 4th house. Ceres is the nurturer, the grower, the healer. And it's in the 4th house, and the 4th house is like taking care of other people. So that's absolutely something too. Saturn in the 2nd house, you probably felt really restricted when it came to environmental, like monetary value stuff. It's really interesting because Pallas Athena is also here, and Pallas Athena is the place in our chart where we're really, it's like our genius. It's the genius part. And this is why you you have expensive tastes, because you have Pallas in the 2nd house. The 2nd house is ruled by Venus. So this is why you have expensive taste, but this is why you can't necessarily always have the expensive things that you want. But you can have all the things that you want. You just have to keep moving. Every single time you move towards this North Node goal of creating stability for yourself, because it's going to look different. Creating stability for yourself is going to look different than the way you thought creating stability was supposed to look like. Creating stability doesn't necessarily mean that you're making a ton of money, that you own a home, that you have a car. Like, though, that's like, yes, all of that stuff is really great to have. But when you create the home within yourself, when you create the stability within yourself, when you start to say things, you know, when you're able to start saying things to yourself like, I feel safe right now with what I'm doing. I feel comfortable with what I'm doing. You're nurturing, when you are nurturing your path, this Saturn will just start to kind of like disappear. You'll start to learn the lessons of it. And that's what I mean by doors opening up and opportunities and stuff like that, because it may even be that now all of that stuff matters to you, but after you realize and you start following your North Node and you realize that you need a different kind of stability in your life than you once thought you did, this is going to change. Your whole idea of what values look like, what morals look like, all of that kind of stuff will start to change, but it always starts within yourself. And that's what the North Node is. It's always starting within yourself. So learning the lessons of the South Node of not being that ultra independent kind of person, and knowing that with certain people, it's okay to trust. So that's where you have to have those boundaries and be very discerning when it comes to trusting other people. But absolutely that there. Let's see, Jupiter in the 11th house. Anything online that you're doing, you'll probably have a lot of luck with. So if you're studying do you particularly do pretty good with online studies?
I've never done it before till now, so I don't know really.
Oh, okay. But are you enjoying it so far? Do you feel like
yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, let's see, Neptune in the 6th house. This can give you, how do I want to put this? Having Neptune in the 6th house can be a placement like you really have to pay attention to your health, because it's not going to be a natural thing for you to just want to be healthy. And the less healthy you are, you won't feel safe and stable. If you're not healthy, if your body isn't healthy, you'll never feel safe and stable at all, because you'll constantly be in that survival mode. When we're sick, or we have, like I told you I was in that walking coma, because basically I was in survival mode for 5 days with all that pain. Your body automatically reacts to it, and it shuts everything else down and like gives you laser focus on just one thing. And for you, having Neptune in the 6th house is about health. It's about organization. It's about cleanliness. It's about, it's also about the internal battle of self as well. So having Neptune there, Neptune is the thing that kind of gives us the veil, the illusion of life. And so this makes it so you really have to pay attention to your own health, probably a little bit more than other people do, because with other people, it's just a natural thing for them to want to brush their teeth in the morning, or a natural thing for them want to eat healthy or go for a run, or I mean, like and it's so funny because I know the energy of this, because my 6th house is Pisces and Pisces is Neptune. So that's my 6th house. So I too had to force myself to actually take care of myself, instead of just like, hoping that I'll stay alive, even if I'm eating chocolate donuts every single day. Who knows, right? So make sure that you're creating healthy routines for yourself. And if you slip up on those healthy routines, or it's really hard for you to stay on them, don't beat yourself up. Just know that every single day is a new day to start over again. When you remember that every day is a new day to start over again, and you don't put this like really strict time frame or really strict goal ahead of you, and you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to start doing things that make me feel better, then everything, like your body becomes healthy in a very natural flowing kind of way, instead of trying to force it, because when people force it and they like are doing really good on their diet, or they're doing really good on working out or whatever for like 3 weeks, and then boom, there's like one day that they're not really feeling like they want to, and then after that it's like fucked, like their whole thing is like they fall off of it, right? So remember, for you, creating habits is going to be a little bit more difficult than it is for other people. So you have to be a little bit more diligent and discerning about creating healthy habits for yourself on a daily basis.
Okay.
Do you have any questions before we go back to the solar return and I actually read that the right way?
No, but okay, so you were right on the last reading that we did about my ex-fiance. It actually turned out he has a girlfriend. I didn't know.
Oh,
I haven't been booked on him, but I was just letting you know that, yeah, you were right on that.
I mean, I'm not even going to apologize for being right because that dude was all wrong.
Yeah. He didn't tell me. I found it on Facebook, and then I confronted. I said something to her, and then I said something to him, and now we're done. So.
Well, that's good. There's somebody else out there for you that's better for you, anyways. I promise.
Yeah.
Just focus on yourself, and you'll.
Yeah.
Like the more you raise your vibration, you're gonna attract that guy. Like it'll probably be because you like focusing on yourself. Everybody's like, oh, well, then I'm gonna focus on myself for 6 months, and I'll find a person. And I'm like, it took me 2 years. So, and I'm like the person, like I'm like hardcore healer. Like I will heal myself. I don't care how much it hurts. I don't want to hang on to that stuff. So if it takes me if I'm a really fast, I do really fast healing stuff, then some people it takes a while to do. So don't put a time limit, but I guarantee you, if you're really, really diligent about focusing on your goals and what you want to do, I guarantee you'll probably attract a new partner within the next year or so. There's nothing going on in your 7th house this year, so I wouldn't say that this is the year. I think that this year is all about focusing on you and focusing on yourself, focusing on the things that you want. The solar return is where the sun comes back to the original position it was in when you were born. Every year we have a solar return. It's called our birthday. Some days the solar return is the day or the day before, the day after your birthday. Your solar return, the sun was conjunct Saturn, Jupiter. We also have Pallas and Mercury conjunct, all in Aquarius. So you're going to be learning a lot of lessons about what abundance actually means for you, because abundance doesn't mean money. Abundance doesn't mean riches necessarily. For some people, it will be, if that's what they're searching for, if that's what they want, and and that's genuinely a part of their soul's journey. That's going to be the thing that they're going to be going for. But this year for you, until your next birthday on January 22nd, this year for you is going to be about creating your own value system, creating your own morals, and kind of breaking away from what the world told you your values and morals and beliefs and everything. Like everything you felt like you were supposed to believe growing up, going to look completely different next year. Even if your values were different last year, they're going to change again. Like it's like such a fast shift for you, because your sun is in the 2nd house, and that's going to be a very important theme for you this year, is how your values are going to change. You're also going to be focusing so much more on self-love and creating a sense of, it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes kind of stuff, like where you've already been kind of at the bottom of the barrel of where you don't want to be anymore. And now the universe is giving you that nice little nudge, that like smack on the butt, like, all right, it's time for you to get going. You're done now. Like, you're no more wallowing in self-pity, no more crying for the past, no more of that. Like, now it's time for you to focus on you and get moving. And I know that that's hard. I mean, it's very, very heartbreaking to find something like that for you, to find that on Facebook and like to not have somebody be honest with you. That's very heartbreaking. But again, you can look at that as a core wound and be like, okay, well, he just triggered that abandonment issue for me. He just triggered that ultra independence. Like, fine, I don't fucking need you. That's great. You guys can just go off and have your own little fun or whatever. Whatever it is that you are finding out about yourself this year is going to greatly, greatly, greatly progress moving on. I feel like this year is going to be a really big year for you. Dig deep into your passions right now, having the moon in the 5th house during your solar return, especially with Mars in the 5th house, like everything that you are passionate about. And I don't mean people, I mean what you are passionate about, the things that bring you joy, the things that make you smile, the things that make your soul dance. That's what I want you to focus on. And finally, the North Node transiting your 6th house during your solar return means that this is the year for you to really focus on that health aspect and getting yourself like feel better. So you're not so tired anymore. So you have more energy, so you can focus on your studies, so you can focus on the goals that you have, and you won't beat yourself up and go back into the ego tantrum stuff. Fair?
Yep.
That was a whole bunch of information. It was just like,
Yeah.
but really, no, this is going to be a great year to focus on yourself. So I really hope that you give yourself the opportunity to do that. Remember that if people do come into your life, if guys do come into your life this year, be really, really discerning about it. I feel like they're going to be coming in for like to test you to see if you are doing what you're supposed to be doing to heal. They'll come in and trigger you that abandonment issue that same way. It'll keep happening until you really allow yourself to sit with it and like accept that it happened and accept that it's a part of you. Because I feel like sometimes that you separate yourself so much from it out of resentment or anger or just like indifference that you don't actually realize that it sabotages relationships, but it sabotages the relationship with yourself more than anybody else. So work on that relationship with yourself this year and everything else will come into place.
Okay.
You heard it here first.
Yes.
All right, my dear. Well, I'm really glad that we finally got to do this.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And if you have any questions for me, I'll send this reading to you a little bit later this evening. If I don't get it to you this evening, just give me a couple of days. I'll get it to you sometime this weekend if it's not this evening. But
okay.
If you have any questions for me after you watch the video, just let me know.
All right. Thank you so much.